This is the most hardcore Ferrari 296 ever to leave the factory. It's faster, more powerful, more aerodynamic, more insane. It's the 296 Speciale.
Because what nobody said when they drove the 830 horsepower 296 GTB was that fatty could do with being a bit faster.
But traditionally, Ferrari is really good when it comes to special editions, so you should pay attention when they do build one.
In fact, we got two, because the red car is a convertible and this green one is the coupe. That's Verde Nürburgring, by the way, and is exclusive to the Speciale. Have a quick game of spot the difference. The 296 GTB isn't exactly weak as standard, but the Speciale has been on a diet and the steroids. There's still a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 engine welded to a plug-in hybrid system. No, it didn't ditch the hybrid bit like the GT3 cars. An 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive. But instead of producing a combined 830 horsepower, it now produces 880. Which is a lot. But not a monstrous power hike. Mind you, the rear wheels can only take so much.
But like all Ferrari special editions, the 296 Speciale is not just about horsepower. There's more of a holistic attitude to making this car faster, so it's more powerful, yes, but it's also more aerodynamic, it's got a lower centre of gravity, it should be better to steer, and it's got a faster gearbox. It's about a host of other tweaks. So let's look at the basics. Now you may have noticed this is the Spider version of the 296 Speciale, but the drivetrain is pretty much the same as the GTB, except uprated. So it's got the same 3-litre V6 in the middle, but this time it's 37 horsepower more than the standard car, bringing it up to about 700 horsepower. And then behind that is an uprated electric motor which produces 180 horsepower. That gives you the 880 horsepower of the whole car. The interesting thing is that electric motor now makes so much torque that they can use it to fill in the minuscule gaps in the changes from the 8-speed dual-clutch gearbox, so it changes faster. And yes, you can still run it around on electric only by plugging it in because it's got a 7.5 kilowatt-hour battery, giving you 15 to 20 miles of EV-only range. But 50 horsepower isn't actually all that much for a turbo hybrid monster, but the Speciale is also 60 kilograms lighter than a standard car. And that's because it's paid attention to lightweight.
The obvious stuff is carbon for the bumpers and engine bay and the wheels, but Ferrari saves 9 kilograms by changing elements of the engine for titanium and forged bits. Even the head studs and fasteners are titanium, and the engine block and crankcase have been shaved so they don't carry any excess metal. The turbo itself is lighter, and there's an F80-ish titanium alloy exhaust pipe, and more carbon fibre. I'll show you the inside in a minute. But this is weight saving via marginal gains, rather than huge bits deleted. It's a very F1 sounding programme.
Even the suspension is light. Now this car rides about 5mm lower than standard, and it's got specific Multimatic shocks derived from the Challenge cars. But the springs, guess what they're made of? Titanium. There's not going to be any titanium left at this rate. We'll start with the really obvious stuff, these winglets. The FXXK called, and it wants its little wings back. But these provide a really good aerodynamic solution for this car in that they produce downforce and they manage the airflow over the top surface of the car. They also work with the spoiler that's adaptive, so it used to have 2 modes, low drag mode for really high speeds and then a high downforce mode which popped up really high. Now it's got a new medium mode for a bit of a best of both worlds kind of operation. Then there's a new splitter down here with these vortex generators which break up the airflow and again produce stability. Completely flat floor. This should be a fast car. See these intakes here? Well, obviously they feed the engine, but they also act as a blown diffuser for the rear wheel arch. It's clever. Then at the front, you've got the aero damper concept, which makes the front of the car look really, really wide. Look how far that is, giving you much more surface area to get things into radiators and cool the whole thing down. And then as you move up over the car, you get this big scallop, which is a bit like an F80, which again allows air to be drawn through the car and up and over the windscreen. These little vents here actually act as a blown system for the front wheel arch, releasing the pressure when it's going really quickly. And then if you look down here, this vent actually channels air onto the front brake disc. Now there's loads of clever venting and vanes and stuff that channel air onto the brake disc to keep it at a consistent temperature. Even the lower control arms are planed to channel air onto the brakes. It's very, very clever. Oh, and carbon ceramic brakes and Sport Cup 2s as standard.
So, prices and performance. Well, the Speciale isn't about raw figures, but the numbers themselves aren't to be sniffed at. 0 to 62 miles an hour in 2.8 seconds, more than 205 miles an hour top speed. But a more representative metric for what this car's about is a Fiorano lap time of 1 minute 19 seconds, whereas standard GTB manages 1 minute 21. That is not a small amount for such a small track. And the cost? The good news is that this isn't a limited run car, though there's a limited time for production, which itself limits numbers, and you have to be what's called an active customer for Ferrari. So you have to have bought some sort of Ferrari, be that new or used, in the past 5 years. And then be far enough up the waiting list. So if you have €407,000 for the coupe or €462,000 for the Spider, you're in luck, with prices varying according to local tax and tariff needs.
Inside, it's as you might expect. It has got the comfiest sports seats I think I've felt in a Ferrari for a long time, but everything is very pared back, and as you would expect, it's a hymn to carbon fibre and Alcantara. So the door cards are made of one giant block of carbon fibre, and it's just got this little handle that's pressed into it like a little carbon fibre ledge to close the door. And then the stereo doesn't have kind of covers to it, it's just holes drilled into the actual carbon fibre, which makes it feel very racy. I suspect this might be quite loud, and it will be, because even though the 296 GTB has acoustic tubes to bring some of the noise of the engine into the cabin, the Speciale has more tubes, so it gets louder the faster you drive it, which is something that's very visceral and very necessary in a car with electric and hybrid assistance. Then you've got carbon fibre steering wheel, Alcantara dash to stop all the reflections. It just feels very focused. There's a really good driving position. In the middle, again, carbon fibre centre console, and then this gatey bit where there used to be a manual gearbox, and that chooses all your different things for the gearbox. Interestingly, this car has 4 different modes, and the interesting ones are eDrive, which allows you to drive around purely on electric mode. Then there's hybrid, which chooses whichever it feels is most efficient, so that's the one that you can drive around in normally. Performance leaves the engine on permanently, so you get striking performance even if you're going down a normal road. And then there's a mode called Qualify. Now that produces the most boost it possibly can from the electric motor in every situation, so you go as fast as possible. But interestingly, if you tell it what racetrack you're on, it will learn the corners that it can activate boost and give you a better corner exit, and then manage that boost all around the racetrack, so it'll give you the fastest lap time possible. It's like having AI in your car for racing.
All of that should make a 296 that's more focused and deliberate to drive, and yes, more fun. But when the performance was so eye-popping in the first place, it's going to take something absolutely special to turn the dial up to 11. In fact, you might just need a new dial entirely.
But Ferrari obviously has form when it comes to superlative special editions, a bit of history when it comes to heating up existing models by adding a little bit of extra spicy. And they tend to be pretty good examples of the breed. So the 296 Speciale has a bit to live up to. Even back in the day, the F355 got a Fiorano handling pack special, which featured bits robbed from the contemporary challenge racing cars, a bit like the 296. But it wasn't a huge deal back then. That changed with the successor, the ultimate version of the Ferrari 360, the 360 Challenge Stradale. Again, a car with strong links to the FIA spec challenge racing cars, the CS got lighter, 1,180 kilograms dry, a 425 brake horsepower version of the naturally aspirated V8, and revised steering, brakes and chassis. 0 to 62 in 4.1 might sound vaguely pedestrian these days, but 20 years ago that was quick. But it wasn't actually the straight line speed that made the CS stand out. It was the driver involvement. Peak Ferrari Special Edition in some eyes, and probably mine. But there was more to come, and that came in the shape of the F430 Scuderia. Again, lighter than standard by 90 to 100 kilograms and more powerful at just over 500 brake horsepower. There was Superfast 2 software for the paddle operated box and a new traction control system nicked from the Ferrari 599 GTB. But again, like the 360 CS, the Scuderia was more than just the sum of its parts.
Much like the 458 Speciale, the car that cozies up to the 296's new name. The last naturally aspirated V8 powered Ferrari, the Speciale was a 458 Italia with 90 kilograms lost, mostly from the interior, lighter glass and a Lexan engine cover.
It was fitted with a tweaked 4.5 litre V8 producing 597 brake horsepower at 9,000 RPM, and with gearshift times cut by 44% over the standard car. Probably peak Ferrari specialness of the free breathing era, it's an icon, but you can see the recipe clearly. Then there was the 488 Pista, the hardcore sibling of the regular 488. Over 700 brake horsepower, new cams, a bigger intercooler for the turbos, titanium rods, beefier pistons and Inconel exhaust manifolds. Revisions to the 7-speed transmission, new aero, especially at the front, and more use of carbon fibre to give a weight saving of 90 plus kilograms over the standard car. And the Pista engine was used in the later F8 Tributo. But the 296 Speciale does have contemporary race kit to pull from. Okay, so the 296 Challenge and 296 GT3 have the electric bit of the hybrid removed so that the competition cars are way lighter, more responsive and ultimately racy. But probably not as easy to handle or effortlessly fast as a road-going GTB. Which goes to show that all of these Ferrari upsells have a few things in common. They've all got bloodlines based in motorsport, and they're all lighter. They have more power, faster shifts and, in some of them, tweaked electronics and traction systems. And the 296 Speciale follows the same recipe. Will the 296 Speciale become a legend like its predecessors? We will find out later this year. But what do you think? Hit or miss?